thank you so much for joining us this morning at this engagement session relative to the Erwin School Redevelopment Project. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of Guilford County. We are engaging in a community engagement session, and this is number 3 of 3 that we are having in conjunction with DFI, and we are very excited to have you become a part of this. I will turn it over to Sonia Turner, who will take us from here, who is our consultant with the Development Finance Initiative from UNC School of Government. Sonia?
All right. Thank you, Eris. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much again. I am accompanied here by a few of my teammates, a few of my colleagues from DFI, and we are happy to be here and really just hear from you what your interests are for the redevelopment of the former Erwin School site. And so with that, I'm going to share my screen. So let me make sure that you all can see. Can everyone see my screen okay? All right, fantastic. So as I mentioned, our goal for today is really to hear from you. So the goal is to collect input to identify the needs and priorities that could be addressed through the redevelopment of the site. And this conversation will ultimately help inform the guiding public interest for this project. And so, again, the objective of today is I want to hear more from you than my own voice. So I'm going to walk us through just a few minutes of project context and area context for the Erwin School. And then we are going to just sort of given the numbers we have right now, I believe we're going to stay sort of in this one group, but we'll see as people join if we need to divide up into a few breakout rooms. But we're going to walk through a series of questions that's going to help our team and the county really mine out what the community's interests are. Now, before I dive in, I did want to just share a little bit about myself. So I actually grew up in Greensboro. This is in East Greensboro is not unfamiliar to me. So I'll just say I graduated from Dudley High School. So I am a Panther alum, and I was also a cheerleader there, but that feels like a long time ago. So I grew up in East Greensboro. My grandmother had a house on Pearson Street, which intersects with Gate City Boulevard. At the time when I lived in Greensboro, it was Lee Street. And then I actually lived off of English Street for a short period of time, not too far from the Erwin School site. And so now, again, I grew up in Greensboro. I left to go to the Triangle, NC State for college. And so I have not lived in Greensboro since. And I know that Greensboro has changed quite a bit since the last time I was there. But I also recognize, and especially in East Greensboro, that much of East Greensboro looks the same as what I remember it when I was a child. And the county has engaged our team because they believe there's an opportunity here at the Erwin School site to think through a development that could help attract private investment and revitalize this particular area. And so that's why we're here today. And yeah, I'm excited just to hear from you. And so with that, I'm going to dive in, just share a little bit about our organization. So the Development Finance Initiative, or DFI for short, we are a program of UNC Chapel Hill School of Government. And the School of Government works with local governments all across the state of North Carolina, providing research, advising, training, and we are the largest institute or organization, university-based organization, I should say, that does that in the nation. And our values with the School of Government, we are nonpartisan, we are policy neutral, we are responsive. And DFI, we fit within the School of Government, so we are a program of the School of Government. Oftentimes, local governments have real estate development questions or real estate development challenges or concerns. And the Development Finance Initiative, DFI, we were created to help local governments address some of these challenges or opportunities within their communities and ultimately help them attract private investment for these projects. So we bring specialized real estate and development finance expertise to local governments to serve them in that way. Our team has been around since 2011. We've worked on over 230 projects across the state. We've served 73 out of the 100, out of the 100 counties. And our projects have led to over $1 billion in private investment to support local government development goals. And so that's a little bit about us and the School of Government. And so these are just a few of the projects, the types of projects that we've worked on. And again, we assist local governments on a range of real estate development questions or projects or challenges that they may be facing. The Erwin School Development falls within what we would call sort of an infill sort of redevelopment category. And so our team, we were engaged by the county May of this year to assist the county in attracting private investment for the redevelopment of the former Erwin Montessori School site. And so our engagement in our process, it mirrors that of the private sector. So just like a developer would come to an area, look at land and evaluate, okay, what are the current conditions? What's happening in the market? What could we potentially test fit on the site? They might bring in an architect to do just a high level test fit of a potential structure or buildings, and then they do that financial analysis. Our team does that same thing. So we are doing that analyzing current conditions, looking at the market. We will work with the county to engage an architect to do a test fit for the site, a potential program. We'll do that financial analysis because, again, at the end of the day, we may have ideas for the site, but it also needs to work financially. And so we do that process, but the one thing that differentiates us, the local government is our client, and it is important that we understand what the community's interests are for the project and what the local government's interests are. And so that is important because we understand that you have to have both the public and the private sector. The project has to be feasible for both sides for the type of work that we do in order for the project to move forward. And so that's where these conversations come in. You are helping us to understand what the public's interests are for the redevelopment of the site. And we will be working with the county in the long run. So we are working with the county through what we call this pre-development analysis. We will, once the county has decided upon a potential development program, we will help the county market this to the private sector, again, to help attract that private investment. And then we will support the county in negotiating with that selected development partner. So we are essentially with the county from the start, this point here, to shovels in the ground, and ultimately when the county exits the deal. So this is the Erwin School site. This is just to orient you to where we're talking about. It is bounded by East Bessemer Avenue. A portion of the site touches East Market Street and Dockery Street. This site is roughly 9 acres. It's largely zoned for residential, so residential multifamily is the bulk of the site. and then a small portion of the site is zoned for commercial. Now, one important thing to note is that the existing school buildings on the site right now, they will all be demolished by the end of spring 2025. So when we're thinking about development potential for this site, it's important to keep in mind that those buildings will be removed. So the county will be working with a blank slate, if you will, of this roughly 9 acres for redevelopment. And so I'll pause here actually. Are there any questions about anything that I've shared so far? All right. I'm going to take that as everyone's tracking with me so far. Um, so this is the Erwin School site within the context of the larger area. So as you all are aware, the Erwin School site is located within East Greensboro. And there has been some investment, some recent investment, some recent projects taking place in East Greensboro, notably the Windsor Chavis NOCO complex, which is being planned. There's the Bailey Village development that the multifamily component of that has been completed. They are still working on attracting ideally a grocery tenant or a large retail tenant. There's the Resurgent, which that is a joint venture project between Cone Health and A&T University. And then if you go to the north, there's this Pyramids Village complex, which is another Cone Health project with some retail and a potential hotel happening across from that Walmart there. And so as you can see, there are some significant investments and some significant projects that are happening in East Greensboro. Many of these projects are in closer proximity either to A&T University or US 29. Where this site is located, we are a little bit removed from some of that investment. It's a little bit different dynamic happening in the area. And so within the area we're located, so the I guess the area context is transitioning a little bit more to rural. There is the Guilford Technical Community College Greensboro campus nearby. There's a North Carolina Cooperative Extension nearby. The site is not too far from Wendover Avenue, which sees significant traffic, as well as East Market Street. And so those are what we would consider some assets for this site. But in addition to those assets, there are some real considerations and some other dynamics that are at play in this neighborhood that are impacting the development potential. And so I want to talk through some of those, and I'd like for you to keep these things in mind, both the assets, the location, and some of the investments happening in East Greensboro, but also some of the potential challenges with the site, especially as we begin to talk about potential interests for the redevelopment. So looking at the neighborhood, the East Bessemer area, we looked at the census tract that the site is within. Population is just shy of 3,000. It is largely African American, so a large Black population, close to 70%. The median household income is just shy of 24,000. Now, important to note, this median household income is only 38% of Guilford County's median income. And so important to keep in mind, right, when thinking about development potential, when thinking about potential desired uses, is understanding the dynamics of the demographics in the community around the site. 78% of those within immediate proximity of the site, so that area bounded by East Bessemer, Market Street, and English Street, is likely renter occupied. as compared to 40% for the county. And then lastly, within the census tract, 37% of the population is below poverty level. So again, zooming out and understanding there are these assets, proximity to Guilford Tech, North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Wendover Avenue, some significant investments happening in East Greensboro, but also keeping in mind that there are some real dynamics happening within the neighborhood and the area, excuse me, that the private sector is also looking at that is impacting the development potential of the site. So earlier I mentioned I use this phrase guiding public interest. And so when I say guiding public interests, this is a process that we take all of our local government clients through, where we help them identify what are their values, what are the goals that they would like to see this project achieve. And these are goals that are broad, they are relevant to the site that we're talking about, and they reflect trade-offs. Now, what guiding public interests are not, they are not overly specific, and they are not specific public investment scenarios. So essentially, when we talk about guiding public interests, what we are saying is we want the community to help us understand what are the things that you would like to see this project achieve that would help constitute a win for the community. What are those goals that when the county markets this project to the private sector, you want to make sure that these different goals, these different values, these different benchmarks are incorporated into the development. And so these interests, what we'll do is we'll take the feedback we hear from this conversation and the other conversations we've had, and we will work with the county to craft those into these broad value statements. We will present these interests to the county commissioners for endorsement. And from there, once the elected officials endorse these interests, they will be used and they will follow the duration of the project. They will be used to guide the creation of the development programs for the site, and these interests will ultimately be used as the criteria for the selection of that private development partner. And so I wanted to share an example with you of this process that we've walked through in another community in Salisbury. Before I do that, I want to highlight that we are still pretty early in the process with the county. And so at this point in the process, we're not yet looking at any site plans. We're not looking at any designs. This point of the process is just us really understanding what are your interests? What would you like to see happen here on the site? So we walked through this process with the city of Salisbury. So similar to this meeting we're having right now, I and this team, we went to Salisbury. We held a public engagement session to understand what the community's interests were. And from that public engagement session, we were able to identify these value statements for the site within Salisbury. Now, with this project, they were very interested in incorporating affordable housing. And so I'll just read this first statement. They said development on the site should provide a catalytic development that incorporates housing options for low to moderate income households for a mixed income community. So note that that statement, it shows and it communicates a value. It is a broad statement. It's not getting into the specific number of units that the development should create. It's not necessarily specifying that information, but it is being clear to say that they want to make sure they're serving low to moderate income households and they want a mixed income community. So that's what we mean when we talk about statements that communicate values and interests that are broad, but still can serve as guideposts for the development. And so what we did is after these interests were endorsed by the elected officials, this information was then used to help inform the development plan that was created. So the city engaged an architect, and in partnership with our team, they developed this plan that incorporated these interests. And in Salisbury, where we are now in the process, is the local government has endorsed their preferred development plan, and we will be shortly marketing this development opportunity to the private sector. And so that's how this process works. And we are at the beginning phase of this process. And so with that, you've heard a lot from me. You've heard my voice a lot now these past minutes. And so now I really want to hear from you. So again, the goal is for you to share your input to help inform the guiding public interest for the Erwin School redevelopment. And as far as next steps are concerned, we have an online survey that will be open until October 18th. So please continue to spread the word. For those who are not able to attend these engagement sessions, please encourage them to provide their input via the survey. And then our team will collect all of this information, and we will provide an update to the county later this fall, and with the goal of identifying and hopefully having these guiding public interests endorsed.